Welcome, everybody. Welcome to this day 7 in the evening plenary of World Unity Week. It's been an amazing week so far, some incredible offerings, and more to come. We've got a great lineup tonight, including our first plenary presentation with Danielea Castell, who I'm going to introduce. And after that, we have gratitude for the ancestors with Fumi John Stewart. And then we're going live to a concert in Carbondale, Colorado. So there's a lot to look forward to tonight in the US time. So let me introduce our speaker today. And I'm so excited about this because Danielea has been on a huge journey and has got so much to report and share with us in this plenary today. Danielea Castell is a nature communicator and interbeing ambassador for peace. She hosts ceremonial dialogue spaces called the Listening Field, where humans can consult directly with elders from the natural world about local and planetary issues. Danielea, I think it was the Listening Field, was that 2 years ago in World Unity Week, which really came in such a foundational way, an amazing way. And through the Listening Field, you've really been an incredible leader in giving people permission, really, to connect to their nature elders and the wisdom of the nature elders. So really deep gratitude to you and excited to be with you today and to hear about your tales and your journeys and your experiences with the olive trees speak. Danielea, welcome.
Thank you so much, Ben. I'm really honored to be here and have this opportunity to share such an experience that's so fresh. I'd like to begin by speaking into gratitude. Um, there have been a series of people who have not only made it possible for me to go to Greece, but in fact to connect me with the people that were organizing it. I wanted to share, though, that someone in our community, Reverend Becky, followed her intuition, and she mailed me this. You can see it. It's a small heart on a string, and it is made from olive wood. And she received this when she was in the Holy Land with your Unity Earth experience back in 2018, and she was guided to mail it to me. And she did so while I was in Chiapas, Mexico. And I wanted to let everyone know that I took this and it became part of the altar. And there were 35 people in the group, and it was held by every person in the opening ceremony. It was held by every person in the closing ceremony, and it was also held and used in subsequent sharing circles during our very powerful time together. So I just really wanted to speak to that power of answering the call that you hear intuitively and acting on it, because it makes a really big difference. I also wanted to share that this beautiful rattle that you can see, I call her Grandmother Spider. She's a coconut shell, and this I received from Arturo de la Cruz in Palenque, Mexico. He made this as well as another rattle, gifted it to me on the last day that I was in Palenque, and this rattle went with me as well as the other one to Aegina, Greece. And this is the one that brought through the grandmother song with the grandmother olive tree on the very first day I was there. So I'd like to take just a moment right now to invoke the energy of these grandmother beings and grandfather beings, the ancient ones in Greece, to share a bit of this song with you. So I just invite you to close your eyes and connect with any tree being that you know and love, because they, along with the olive trees, are really voting our victory and coming forward to partner with us to really understand what it means to be peace. Grandmother olive tree, being peace, partner with us. Grandmother olive tree, being peace, partner with us. Grandmother olive tree, being peace, partner with us. Grandmother olive tree, being peace, guide our heart, guide our way, lead us home, home in love. Partner with that grandmother, olive tree, being peace. Partner with that grandmother, olive tree, being peace. Partner with that grandmother, olive tree, being peace. Guide our hearts. This particular grandmother tree, when I asked her about partnering with us, I said, what would that look like for you? And she said, singing and dancing is the most, what was the word she used? Singing and dancing is the best way for us to move around the world together. And then that song flowed out of me. So thank you for receiving that, and thank you for holding the olive tree elders in our heart. I want to begin by speaking to the essence of this gathering in Greece. For me, ended up being about radical acts of love in a time of war. The generosity of spirit, the generosity of the land, of the organizers, of the facilitators, was absolutely paramount in providing a container in which we could drop so deeply into our own humanity. And this began with the organizers themselves, who were very young, a 29-year-old and 30-year-old, Daphne and Nefeli. And both of them are Greek, but they've lived in Israel and for extended periods of time. And their call, like my call, and many of us last October, was, as an international community, what can we do to support and to help further peace with what was happening following October 7th. And so I wanted to just acknowledge that there are so many people that made this happen. And I wanted to share this message right off the top, that this message came through January the 6th when we first started doing the public consultations with the olive tree people. And this message, even in the midst of all the pain, there is beauty in the human heart. The more we seek beauty, the more you find. And this, in fact, is what happened at this very, very innovative and courageous gathering called Uniting in Our Humanity. I want to acknowledge that the abundance and the support that we had was truly profound. Both in the top right corner, you see some of the gardens that were on the retreat center where we all were. And many of the participants who are coming from a country where the sound of bombs, the feeling of bombs dropping, people dying, etc., living in that field 24 hours a day, expressed so much gratitude for the beauty and for the love that was being that held them, that held all of us, all 35 of us, while we were there. Below in the lower right, of course, is the Aegean Sea, and this was new for me. But every time someone from the Holy Land, as they call it, or the land, went swimming, they felt such privilege if they were someone from West Bank, because they normally can't have access to it, and two, that they were able to always offer prayers that went, straight south and west to Israel, Palestine. And so it was a profound gift to the Aegean Sea. And then, of course, on our right is one of the ancient olive trees you'll hear more about later. So just really wanting to acknowledge that our facilitation team was not only human. And then here are the beautiful faces of all the people, of the humans who made this happen. I just want to have a shout out to Christina, who is Daphne's mother, one of the organizers. She's in the lower right here. And it's she and her partner, Olivier, who have built this retreat center, but also has a profound relationship with these ancient olive trees, and was very instrumental in the yes to have me come. We have the two organizers here, and then we have the facilitation team, which were 4 Israelis, 4 Palestinians. And then there was myself and Yanis, who were international participants, along with Mara. And so this was the team that was helping to make it possible. And again, the abundance of everyone's offering was what was so remarkable, that in a time of war and in a time of conflict where we tend to contract, we all felt safe enough to expand. and to open and to be ourselves. I would like to share just a little bit more at this point about the group itself, just so you understand. There was 35 in total. Almost everyone was involved in peace work to some extent. Some were more in the beginning of their journey, and others were more experienced. But we had people from peace NGOs, professionals, researchers, therapists. There was a mixed group, as I say, of facilitators, educators, activists, and students. And I think it's really important to note here that all of the activities we did and which were facilitated were body-based practices. And this was because the organizers really understood, and this was shared with me, that ongoing war and conflict, we all go numb, and it makes us hostile towards other people. So before we even get to solutions, before we even get to figuring out, sort of how to end this war, if such a thing was possible from our positions, but really we need to be able to look each other in the eye. We need to be able to see each other as human. We need to be able to feel again, and we need to feel the pain that we have. We need to grieve, and we need to, if it's possible, forgiveness is also a possibility as well, and a theme that came up in the gathering. So I really applaud the foresight of these young women to understand that truly in our bodies is where we find our common ground. And then, of course, that's why the listening field was there and I was invited, is because our relationship with our body is intricately woven with our relationship with Mother Earth. And as you'll hear a little bit more about later, the olive trees are offering to partner with us body to body to help us learn how to be peace. So I want to go right now to the olive trees speak, and just to share with you that this is what you see here in this picture is a picture of the valley. It is from the day when there were some of the people there. But I want to say that this concept of a radical act of love, I really feel that the olive tree is coming forward at this time when they are being killed, when they are being burned. They have come forward to offer this partnership of peace with us last fall. So I just want to really acknowledge that for them. And then just a little bit more about that story. As many of you know, the olive trees came forward and asked to partner with us. It became clear that they have a vibration of peace and love consciously, even for themselves. They're conscious of this, and that their invitation for us is really just to connect with them heart to heart. And in so doing, it literally modulates and recalibrates our personal frequency to peace and to love. And as you'll see with some of the stories that I will share, this is in fact the kind of healing that they facilitated on the day that we went to the grove. I would also like to just share that in my own journey, it became clear that I was being groomed for this role of interbeing ambassador for peace. And I've known that this is who I am since 2008. This was shared with me by my family of tree people from Haida Gwaii, but I really didn't understand what it was or what it meant. But when the olive trees started coming forward, I went into an intensive apprenticeship with them, and specifically with the Deva of the olive trees and the Deva of peace. So these are the overarching spiritual authority. And what was clear for me when I would meld with them energetically is they were helping me attune to the frequency of unconditional care for all. Unconditional care for all. And I see how essential that was for me to come to this human to human gathering and in essence find and remember my own humanity. So one of the things that's interesting about the synchronicity is the fact that in early January, when we started to offer the public consultations with the olive trees, I started to hear this call to come to Greece. And we later tracked that at exactly the same time, Nefeli, one of the young organizers, was voice messaging her friend Daphne to say, I'm getting this vision of this event to offer in the neutral land of Greece to Palestinian and Israelis, and then in fact that event was the one that ended up getting me there to meet the olive trees in person. So before I share what happened between some of the participants and the olive trees, I'd like you to meet one of them. And we're going to see the first video. And I want to say that this ancient olive grove is like another world. It's a 40-minute hike straight uphill. It's very hot. I made it just about every single day, sometimes super early in the morning, so that I could be with them and then go to be with the program for the day as well. It's really peaceful. It's really quiet, and it literally feels like time stops. So let's watch the first video and invite you to just allow yourself to be immersed in this field. And I will say that the song you hear is a song that Bridget Wolf, one of our listeners, one of our community, received earlier this year in one of the consultations. And so I've put that music to the video.
The olive tree people told me, deep in my bones, I am healing. Deep in my bones, I am well. Deep in my bones, I am healing. Deep in my bones, all is well. Deep in my bones, I am healing. Deep in my bones, I am well. Deep in my bones, I am healing. Deep in my bones, all is well.
So I hope you got a sense of the timelessness that is there, that was inside of who I called Auntie Love. She just beamed me with love when I was in there. Each tree had a different medicine, a different gift, a different energy. So on the day that we went up for the pilgrimage, I approached this particular listening field with the awareness that the Palestinian and Israeli people there have an ancestral and all existing personal relationship with the olive trees. So that piece was, private and their own business. I knew that the olive trees were going to be the facilitators of this experience rather than the way I am necessarily in an online listening field. So all I did really was bring us to the threshold. There's a place where there's two trees that it's very specifically that we are entering the valley. And I just invited everybody to just really listen into their hearts and share with the olive tree people that we were about to meet who they were and what is their intention, or do they have a request or is there some guidance that they're seeking? And so they did that. And then there was another maybe 10 or 15 minute, another walk as we started to enter the space that I ended up calling, you know, Olive Grove Central. So it's kind of a central area, but the trees are spread out all over. But there are a big grouping of rock people and 4 or 5 really powerful ancient olive trees in one space. So I'm going to share 3 experiences with you. And the first experience is a group experience. And it happened it happened in one of the trees that I was actually guided not to go into. And this tree is almost the most profound looking tree I've ever seen. In fact, I stopped in front of him and said, "Oh my goodness, dude, I don't even know what to say to you. Like, he's incredible," and you'll see it. So there was an experience, a group experience happening inside the tree. And so I want to share just a little bit about this experience from a couple of different perspectives. Whoops, excuse me. Let's go. So there was one person who ended up inside of the tree, and she told me that at the threshold, she made a very specific request, "Please help me to have inner peace." And then she had this experience when she got into the grove itself. There was another account that I've heard from this same from this same group experience. This is Nefeli. She is one of the organizers, young dancer, and she was part of this experience, but from the outside of the tree. She was one of 3 people who are outside and everyone else is inside, and just shared that it felt really appropriate to have human people around the top so that others could look up and see. And then this is what happened. And, you know, there was one of the women who came in here says that she made a post on Facebook, and it's titled, "We all need an olive tree in a group of humans." And she says that 8 of us are sitting in a small circle within the open belly of a 2,000-year-old olive tree, aptly named the grandmother by some of the people there. And she said that they were in the midst of a grounding ceremony, and she leaned back on the uneven bark, enjoying the proximity of the friends, when she suddenly began sobbing. Nothing had been said or done, just the sense of being close together in that old olive tree whose branches have for millennia symbolized peace touched me deeply. This is an Israeli woman. Someone next to me enfolded me in a hug. Another whispered words of welcome to my tears, and a Palestinian man reached over and squeezed my hand gently. A few moments later, tears still flowing, I noticed my Palestinian co-facilitator, originally from Gaza, also began crying. She too was being held by those next to her, and looking around, I noticed tears in several eyes. At one point, she and I reached over and held hands. I am so grateful for the olive trees who helped us hold the pain, for our ability to connect, to be and grieve together, and for those who guided and blessed our way. And what about the person who asked for inner peace at the threshold? This is what she shared with me. I am usually very affected by other people's feelings and find it hard to tell what are mine. But while I was in the tree with the big group, I was able to differentiate between my inner peace and other people's stormy feelings, give support and love as I normally do, but without feeling overwhelmed. The whole experience went from the grieving into chanting, and then they ended up with singing an Arabic song. Of course, everything for the whole time was in either Hebrew, Arabic, and English was the neutral language. But they were singing this blessing song, and they were blessing each person individually, and then we're inviting more people to come into the tree and bless them. So it ended up with this huge celebration after going through this beautiful journey of touching into this common pain without any words whatsoever. This is one more photo. This was taken by Dan Farberoff, and this is Suleiman from Combatants for Peace, and he's Palestinian. And then we have Ayelet, who is one of the Israeli facilitators. And again, as you can see, there's this incredible intimacy that's created when we are at this point that we have are able to actually grieve together. So the next experience I want to share is this one is with excuse me, let me just find. This is Olfat Hyder. Now, Olfat is a outdoor guide. She offers multicultural outdoor leadership programs involving mountain climbing in the Himalayas, and she's been part of huge trips like to Antarctica, etc. So she is like a hardcore outdoor leader. And she had an epiphany. She said that when I was talking at the threshold about making an offering, about introducing yourself, about setting an intention, all of those things, she said, you know, I say thank you after to the nature, you know, after I have my experiences. She literally lives in it every day, both, you know, personally and for her work. She says, I always say thank you, but it just never occurred to me to pursue and have this kind of intimate relationship, very specific and personal. So one of the things that happened to her was that she's now has this goal. She says, I found another mission for myself in life, and that is to learn how to build relations with these nature people, and now to bring other people into nature to also build these kinds of personal relationships. So it was lovely for me because it's been a wish of my heart that all these people who love nature so much can bring this spiritual, this personal element to it. And she said that she, even when she was walking away, she didn't want to leave. And she said, she turned around and she said goodbye. And she said, you know, any successes that I have in this realm, I'm going to attribute and think of you always. So that was a really, really beautiful, beautiful experience. I'm going to, there was one more thing I wanted to say, and that is that I interviewed another man, and his name is Niv, and he's given me permission to share that. And I said to him, I said, when you think of this olive tree from here, and we were back at the retreat center, can you still feel the connection? Because as you know, the connections were direct for people, and often in the listening field online, we're going remotely and telepathically. And he said to me this, I have thought of this tree several times since we left, and the connection is still here. There's a warmth in my heart, a certain closeness that I feel to myself and to another being. He said, it feels like remembering. The connection feels new and exciting, but at the same time, I know this somehow, and it's not weird or foreign. So I'd like to share one last experience, and this is going to be by video, and you're going to see Miriam Elizabeth Tourmaline. And Miriam was one of the Israeli facilitators, and she introduces and describes herself as she was born in Nazareth. She was born to a Jewish Israeli mother and a Christian German father. So she knows that she herself is a product of peace among two nations that just a generation before that were enemies. And she says that from a young age, she has always known that her pathway was to be a peacemaker and a peace builder. And she's just extraordinary. She's a holistic art therapist, and she guided a lot of our ceremonies, including the grieving ceremony. So we'll watch this video now from Miriam about her experience with the grandmother olive tree.
And another experience I want to share was in the olive grove of ancient olives that we've been introduced to as allies for peace. And as we were walking there, I approached the grandmother tree. She on one side, she's like half open in a semicircle, and as if her arms are like wide spread for a hug. But then I heard her saying, come to my back. And I went to her back, and I saw there was like a bench or like a bed made from her roots. And inside it, there was a small hole. And I felt the invitation to just come and lay inside. And it was perfectly in my measures. Like my whole body could just be carried by this ancient being, and I felt cradled in her arms. And the moment I lay down, I started crying. it really reminded me of my own grandmother who taught me about love. And I just felt this being giving me this love and care that I was so much longing for and needing, to be felt, to feel that I'm cared for, that I'm loved, that I'm being nourished and held like a small child in her arms. So that stayed with me. And I'm so grateful for having such a connection to these kind of beings that are beyond the human realm, that can really support us in this time. And I recommend since for people to connect, especially to the olive trees here in the land, because they are really our allies and they can support us going through these hard times. They are also very affected by the war. Many of them got killed as well. And it's heartbreaking. And at the same time, they are a force of love and peace that we can really lean on and that we can learn a lot from.
Thank you, Miriam Tourmaline. So looking back, I could see that the pilgrimage to the olive tree grove happened on day 3, and we had 5-6 days together. So it was kind of in the middle of our experience, and I really see the facilitators. We had 2 facilitators who were therapists, and they were really helping us do the deep work of going inside and opening our hearts and touching the pain. And I see that the healing, the love and the trust, many people expressed how safe they felt in the olive grove. And again, remembering these are people who, whether they're in Israel or the West Bank or Gaza, they are living in war time, and how important that quality is. So I got to see how their experience with the olive trees really helped create a base of trust and safety with each other and with ourselves that helped us to go deeper in our programs and in the graving ceremony that happened afterwards. So I'd like to turn my attention now to say a few more things about the themes that came up in the gathering themselves. As I've shared already, we are Palestinians, Israelis, and internationals come together to find the common threads of our shared humanity. And where we found them was in the pain that we all carry. And there was pain, grieving. Grieving is an action, grieving in groups, and grieving in a big grieving ceremony. And then also we had a session on forgiveness as well, which also was very, very powerful. I want to share just a tiny bit here and to say that there was an experience where the day was a lot about trust, and we were working in pairs, then we working in 4s, then we working in 6s. And of course, we're all mixed, international, Palestinian, Israeli. And we came to the point where we were asked by the facilitator to share our stories. What is your story about what happened for you after October the 7th? And each of us went around, and of course, our stories were extremely different. One person shared that they found themselves on a bridge contemplating suicide. Another person who just completed an extremely long 7 years at school, feeling like there's no future for this person. And then it came my turn, and I was last. And I started to speak about this role, this helplessness that we have felt as internationals. And all of a sudden, this like tsunami of pain came up. Like just, I had not felt it. I just had not felt it. I hadn't been feeling. I'd been more in the realm with the nature elders for the past 15, 20 years. So I've not been feeling the human emotions, I would say, to the same degree. But in that particular setting, and I just started to sob. I mean, it was more energy than was beyond mine. It really, truly felt like it was the field of pain that us as internationals who are witnesses and not able to do much to support any of the suffering that is happening in Israel, Palestine. And it was a profound moment for me to be able to really feel my humanness again and to have people, men, women, Palestinian, Israeli, etc., around me, holding my hands, touching my body, just being there fully while this energy moved. And it was absolutely profound for me because it helped me literally remember my humanity and understand this, that when we have ungrieved energy inside of us, I do not have the capacity to have compassion for other people. I know this now. And I was, we had a grief ceremony the following evening, so there was even more. And I want to just say that I also discovered that I had other grief inside of me that was about family members that I had lost, my mother, my father, and my older brother, and that I had never grieved them. So my experience grieving in a community, not by myself, but in a community with others, with touch, in a context that says we honor our commonality. We honor this is what's common is that we feel pain and grief. And I was able to, as I said, move out so much that I didn't even know was there. And then so, people say to me, so how was Greece? And I say, oh, I went to get treed, but I ended up being peopled, meaning that I remembered my own humanity and really truly understand how important it is for us to grieve. And I'm in conversation right now with Miriam to see about how I can bring her to help co-create this grieving ceremony that she set up with us. That was so powerful for everyone there. So I'd like to pause there, and I would like to just find out if anyone has any questions. I really welcome any questions that you have. I have more that I can share, but I'd really love to hear from you in the audience.
Well, Danielea, let me just jump in there and say, wow, oh my goodness, what a magnificent presentation. Those photos and the beautiful sharing of the people and the trees and the land. And I have many questions. I don't know how much time we've got to cover all of it. But there was something that you did say which really piqued my interest. You talked about connecting with the diva of the trees or the spiritual authority. And I haven't heard you talk much about that. So I'd love to hear you share a little bit about that. How did that show up for you? You've obviously got the tree beings, and then you're talking about another level of being, of spiritual authority, the deva of the trees. Tell us about the deva of these olive trees, if you would.
Yes, well, I'll tell you, it's brand new for me because all the nature elders who apprenticed me in over the 10, 15-year period were all embodied. So they're actual trees. They're very specific trees or groves. Now you'll find in nature circles, you're going to hear this term a lot, DEVA. And what it speaks to is that there's an energetic being who is who's the overarching, it's not an authoritative thing, but it's just that, for example, when the Deva of the olive tree was brought into the listening field back in last fall, not by me, but by someone else, she's an energy and she is connected with all the olive trees. So that's one level at which the Deva, and then, because I'm not the expert on this, but Findhorn, Margot Pognasiak, like there's so many people who relate to nature at the level of the Davis, the Davic realm, and even Dot Raymer, Dot Maver knows lots about this realm as well. Each individual tree can have a Deva. So it can have a spiritual being that kind of looks after that tree, or they're in the elemental kingdom. So that's what I can say about them. This is the first time that I've ever been mentored by the Deva of the olive trees and the Deva of peace, which interestingly enough, I said, are you guys twins? Because I kept saying Day of Peace, and we'd be like, people would say, Danielea, did you call him the Day of Peace or the Day of Olive Tree? And I said, what did I say? And they said, the Day of Peace. And I said, oh. And then actually in a listening field with Jude Curavan, I asked those two beings, I said, okay, tell me what's the deal with you guys? And they said, we are one within each other. So yeah, Dot, I don't have anything more to add about the Davic realm.
Well, that's beautiful. And when you speak of the Deva of peace and the Devas of peace, what I want to acknowledge, Danielea, is the grace and the depth of relationship that you have brought to all of us through your work over these years. And I mean, Elder Rock, for me personally, has really changed me and touched me. And I know that there are many in this room and who are taking this in and participating with you. Thank you. Gratitude. And peace is living in right relationship with self, others, and all of life. And what you are assisting us all with is the call of this moment in time. It's all about harmonious relationship with and among all of us. So, gratitude.
Thank you, sister. Someone
Beautiful.
else.
Thank you, Dot. Well, Danielea, let me just bounce off what Dot was saying there, and thank you and to the organizers for this incredible gathering and sharing the hope. It is a very challenging context there in the Middle East, as we all know. So just knowing that there's something happening at the level of bringing Israelis, Palestinians together in Greece in this neutral way with the connection field and the olive trees feels very, very beautiful. And so thank you for that. I know Dana Tomasino has got a question. We'll probably just time for one last one. Dana, welcome. Go ahead.
Hi, Danielea. So one question is, I wondered what the participants' attitude was when you first described that you were going to be like communicating with the olive trees. Like, were they familiar with that? Was there some skepticism? Was that concept anything that they related to, or was it kind of different? And then my second question was just, what was the main intention of the participants in coming to this retreat? Like, was it to create harmony with the opposite, side, if you call it that? Was that their intention? Did they come with that intention?
Beautiful. So the first question, remind me of the first question again.
What was their
reaction?
initial perception about communicating with olive trees?
Yes. I think that part is new. That part is an addition. And that's what I'm learning too, is that I'm just really inviting people to expand their relationship to include communication. I will say that what I feel was new for people was the fact that olive trees are actually a source of pain for many Israelis and Palestinians because they're being used to cause harm or to cause pain for the Palestinians. So I think that it was very enlivening for them to realize that the olive trees are okay, and also to know that they can connect with these olive trees in Aegina, even while they're back in Israel and on the land. So I think that I would say it's new, but I think that there's a place for it. And then the second question had to do with the intention. There was a 10-page questionnaire you had to fill out in order to apply to come to this event. You can imagine it can't just have anybody there. It has to have people there who are on the side of peace. And if I haven't said this already, it's super important. This was not about sides. This was not an intellectual discussion. We never touched that part yet. We were simply there to discover our shared humanity. So we really were there in order to meet the other, but to be in a place that was neutral. And I'll tell you, we did an eye gazing exercise. The very first thing we did, 35 people, looking into the eyes of 35 people. It took like more than an hour. It was so overwhelming for a lot of people, but it was the first thing we did. So be human with each other, see each other. Not be, I learned that there's lots of Israelis that have no idea what's happening in Gaza and the West Bank. We in the outside world, we know. And so it's like, how could they don't? And we're talking, the situation there is so complex. It's so complex. I can't even pretend to say that I understand. What I do understand is what this is about is about remembering that we are human and stopping all suffering and all war, period. Doesn't matter the right and wrong of it. Yes, justice needs to happen in some regards, but the actual stopping of it is just the point is for us to find our common humanity.
Thanks. Thank you.
Ben, if
Beautiful.
I'd like to leave us with one slide, which is the last message from the, I want to say that there's so much more to share. I have like 9 pages of the most inspiring comments that the participants made at the closing ceremony that there isn't time to read, but just even things like, I learned that it's impossible that once someone shows you the heart, you can't dislike them. Or someone said, we have given birth to something very fragile from a horrific situation, a little baby of hope, and now it's our turn to nurture it. So we will be gathering and continuing on with each other, both as a facilitating team and both as the other. So I just want to leave you with one last message. Now, this, interestingly enough, many of you know that we host a listening field. Again, this was the elders telling us from 2022, Ben, that give us your water, share your grief. This was me. This is me. I took note of all the comments people did at the closing circle. I wrote them all down. I'm sitting inside who I call the listening tree. It's the same one that the group had their experience in. I call these listening tubes. You see all the holes in there. And I'm reading all these comments to the tree. But this is what I want to leave you with. So the day before I left, it was the monthly day to open a listening field, a consultation with the olive trees. And of course, I called in these elders. Man, they were so happy to be invited into the listening field. And this is one of the listeners, Steve Kramer, asked the elders. He spoke to them directly and he said, do you have a message for me? And they said, we elders have a question for you. Love is a verb. Why isn't peace? Why isn't compassion? Make them verbs to help them grow and flourish. And then they said this to him, we peace you, we compassion you. So I want to leave us with that question because we can reinvent language. We are the ones who define the reality we choose to live in. And we can form new relationships with people who we traditionally don't get along with or like. And I'll share one last thing. This was an invitation from one of the young people, which was, please share the energy of this gathering beyond here and engage someone who believes differently than you in a conversation. It takes courage, it takes trust, but ask some questions and just see if you can open any sort of a connection or dialogue between you. So I leave us with that.
Danielea, profound gratitude to you. Thank you so much. What an incredible journey you're on, and you're taking so many of us on the journey with you. You look amazing, by the way. These experiences have obviously been incredibly transformative and powerful. Thank you to you. Thank you to the organizers of this event. Thank you to the olive trees. Thank you to the listening field. And we look forward to hearing all the other incredible things you got to share and finding out what's next for the listening field as it grows and weaves and finds its way along this path of evolution. Thank you, and reconnection. Thank you again, Danielea. We're going to close this session now, and please stay with us because we have a very, very special program now, Gratitude for the Ancestors. Can you see the link there? There's a beautiful link, and there's a very strong nature vibe tonight because after Gratitude for the Ancestors, we're going to Carbondale, where there's an incredible nature connector, Shiloh Paradise, and the music that's going to be coming out of there. So stay with us. Thank you for being with us, everybody. We have a rich night ahead, and thank you. Yeah, thanks, Mark. You do that. Let's go.